Hi there, my name is Chris and I like to draw things in typical YouTube fashion. If you do like these videos, then be sure to click the like button and subscribe, and also comment on anything you'd like me to draw in the future and show you how to do that. Anyone can draw. If you're willing to pick up a pencil and put some practice in, you can get some good results. So, young or old. So with that in mind, let's go. In the previous videos, what we've been doing is building characters for a nativity scene. So we have the shepherd, we have sheep, we have a donkey, and then we have Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus. And we're going to put them all together in a scene together so we can have one finished nativity piece of the original Christmas. So with that in mind, let's get going. What I've done already is I've already roughed out all the characters and their basic shapes in pencil and composed the scene. So you don't want to see me do that again. If you want to know how to draw each of these individual characters, go back and check what I've done in the previous videos. And now this is about just inking them in, and I'm explaining a little bit what I'm doing along the way. So I always try to ink the face first, just go for the nose and the eyes, because once you've got those in place, the rest, for me, slots together really nicely. Now, if you have any questions as to what I'm doing, comment below, and I might be able to see what I can do in a future video. The problem with doing something for years is that you know how to do things automatically, and very often someone will go, "How do you do that?" "Oh, right, okay, you want me to show you that, so let me know." Now, I'm not filling in every line, that's just the way I draw. You might want to draw that line right to the very end. That's okay, I like to just suggest lines. And what I've done before this video was I took my time, or I took some time, in working out the best positioning for the characters. So I don't know whether you can see, there's some blue lines around here. That's where I started putting Mary, but I realised she should be closer to the middle and closer to Jesus. And the same with Joseph. So until you have a picture inked or with very firm pencil lines, it's not finished, and you can change stuff. And also what's good to bear in mind is that kind of got to go with the flow with the picture a bit. So sometimes, or very often in my case, lines don't go where you want them to go, or things don't quite look like you wanted them to look like. That's all right too. You just sort of go, okay, well, we'll adapt that then. I wanted an arm. It didn't quite look exactly how I wanted the arm, but it looks all right, so I'm going to go with it. Or sometimes you just get really nice surprises where you make a mistake, like the sleeve gets a bit bigger, or the hair isn't quite how you planned. But drawing and creating stuff is about as much about the happy accidents and about the fact that you can't control everything in the picture exactly the way you want. And actually, you need to be open to those things that go a little bit wonky, because sometimes they can be the best bits. Okay, so I haven't completely finished the line there. That's my style. You could do that line of Mary's arm reaching down. But for me, and for many other people who draw cartoons and illustrate, that's all right. It's the suggestion of where the arm is going, which is the important thing. This video is going to look a little bit different to the usual ones because I've already explained quite a lot. Notice what I'm doing here with overlapping. So Jesus in the manger. Manger is just a nice, is that a trapezoid shape? Quite simple. Jesus is basically, his head is a sphere and a little dot for an eye and a little tuft of hair. I'm just going to do little tufts of straw. What you'll notice is the manger goes before. That's in the foreground. That comes, you're going to see in space, that's ahead of Mary and Joseph. Mary and Joseph are behind, so you're not going to see Mary's arms as she's reaching into the manger. You're not going to see their knees. And sometimes, like over here, I'll probably leave the shepherd's feet alone because I'll just get distracted. You'll have too many legs with 2 sheep and a shepherd. It just gets cluttered and confusing. So one of the things with drawing is not knowing what to draw in the first place. And knowing that you can actually just miss bits and skip bits. Because what's the important thing? The important thing of this picture is that it's not a historically accurate picture of what the stable and Mary and Joseph would have looked like. We'd like it to be a bit kind of historically accurate because you don't want it in the fantasy land of snow because it was the Middle East and I don't think it was winter either. So there's that sort of romantic in the bleak midwinter kind of view, ideal. But you know, this is somewhere that doesn't have snow. But what we don't want to do is make it so fantastic that we have, like in school nativity plays, where you have just countless people who, you know, was even a drummer boy there? Yeah. Kind of want to make it historically accurate, but got to take some liberties to get the point across. So, keeping it simple, okay, I haven't really gone into, I've suggested their clothes and what they would have been wearing, but we're going for a stylized version, so we don't have to be historically totally accurate there. But it's roundabout right, give or take. And the donkey, you may remember from previous videos, we did the legs and they were pretty tricky. So in this case, I don't want to be spending ages doing donkey legs because that's not the point. The point is Mary, Joseph, baby Jesus, and the scene as a whole as like an iconic collection of characters and people to remind you of the real story so you can go to your Gospels and look it up later. One of the great things about Christmas for me is that I think everyone would say it's been a pretty challenging year. If you're looking at this from the future, 2020, coronavirus, all sorts going on. It's been a challenge for an awful lot of people. And an awful lot of people have been afraid of the virus and of their loved ones catching it. Which is absolutely fair and right to be concerned. And I am going off on a bit of a tangent, but one of the good things about Christmas, bring it back in, is that it's about light in the darkness. It's about hope. That's one of the things that I love my presents, and I love giving my family presents, and I love everything else about Christmas. But I love the accounts in the Bible where it's Jesus is a light in the darkness. remind you that there's better days ahead. Okay. So what we have, just done sheet very loosely. I'm using a different pen to normal. I'm using fine tip. This doesn't give any sort of real variation in line, or thick or thin. It's sort of very technical. It's a technical pen. So the line will always be the same length, give or take. Right. But it is thin enough so that it doesn't look too thick and chunky once I've drawn something on this sheet of A4 paper. What you could do is you could use a normal felt tip pen and make it a really big picture, get a piece of A3. Go as big as you like, actually. And this is by no means architecturally sound or historically accurate, and that's okay, because we're given the idea that it's a stable. Now, I did say before about lines not being joined up. Sometimes there are needs. Ooh, that's not very good. There's a need for lines to be joined up, particularly when they give an overall shape to the picture or show an important action. So what's better is that's okay, but sometimes you might want to fill that line in a bit more because his arm is sweeping down to the crook and he's holding on to the shepherd's crook. That's not really something to worry about if you're just starting out to draw, but it's something to bear in mind. Also, notice the sheep are in front of the shepherd. I haven't finished the shepherd down here. What would I do? Because that could just get very messy with multiple legs. I haven't even drawn the sheep's back legs. And that really is okay, because you're not going to pay attention to that. I'm just wondering, there could be a way normally of just suggesting his robe. Yeah, just suggest his robe and maybe his feet. But don't put too much detail into it, because otherwise it will become a cluttered mess. All I want to do then is I want to make that sheep's legs a little bit thicker, just to make them stand out a bit more, because they're in front of you and easier to see. And behind, you can always make a little less. If something's behind something, or in the distance, less detail is usually good. If I had more detail for this guy's feet and I drew every toe, that would draw attention away from the sheep. And I would also make his feet a bit of a focal point there. We don't want that. What we want is baby Jesus. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap these lines, make that very firm and joined up, more solid, because that is directing your eye to Jesus. I'm also going to shade it a bit, just in case there's any doubt. Yeah, that outside edge, I might just drain that up a little bit just to make it a bit more solid. Not too fussed how well it really turns out, just add a bit of interest there, a bit distracting. Okay, but again, these are just two lines drawn either side, box with the edges splayed out. So that's perfectly possible. The hay and the straw, I've just suggested that with some tufts. Just a few lines to suggest tufts. That's okay. And I've put them pointing above Mary and Joseph there, just because they're heavier and they're going to weigh down the straw. Okay, and hiding a donkey behind this fence is a good idea. Good. Just give him a little smile. Give him a little smile. And the last thing to do is this star pointing down. Several different theories for how this star naturally occurred, but it is a historical fact, which is really cool and traceable. And this is where we get into the wise men, because I haven't drawn the wise men. And that's okay. This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do that as if it's shining a bit more. Those little lines. Yeah, your mileage might vary with those. Just very, very light strokes with those. And you don't want to fill the star in too much because they don't have outlines. So something that glows like fire, you want to have a bit less joined up and a bit more sort of lines like that around it to suggest a glow. Unless you're going to colour it, in which case get the felt tips and pencil crayons out and colour it away. Now you might notice we haven't done the wise men. That's okay because apparently they didn't turn up till about a good year later. Okay, now I've just realised that we have a rather big. The sun has just come out behind me, and that's really nice. It's got in the way of the view. So let me just move stuff along, get out the shade. There we go. Do a squiggle below. We'll call it done. So I'll probably do some wise men and some other animals to go along. There would have been camels. Wise men came along probably a good year afterwards. So they wouldn't have been in this scene anyway, but it's nice to have them. So I might do some of those after Christmas because there's still Christmas holidays and 12 days after Christmas. So, okay, hope you've enjoyed it. Take care, have a happy Christmas, and check out my other stuff. And see you again soon. Happy Christmas.